Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Just Talk, and I hope you guys are doing well, great, fabulous, every other positive adjective in the world of dictionary out there. And today's story that we'll be discussing is obviously from my one and only source, which is Reddit, right? And this story is quite famous on the news, I suppose, and it's about a 60-year-old lady who coughed at a 1-year-old baby after quarreling with the baby's mom. It is apparent to us that despite being 60 times older, using basic mathematics, the time spent living hasn't properly allowed personal growth. The quarrel was allegedly a reason due to the baby's mother not adhering to social distancing. In a moment of angst and clearly lack of options to checkmate the mother in a verbal altercation, the 60-year-old looks around for her next move. In an attempt to find a mismatch on the court, she paces around slightly as she tries to find a weight class lower than hers, and out of everyone there, she decides to strike the baby with the only effective skill she had, which was coughing. Coughing at a baby is probably the most desperate move one can choose because firstly, it's a baby, and secondly, the baby's movement is restricted by the stroller, so clearly an unfair disadvantage. That's like playing tag with one player tied to a tree and wonder why he's always being caught, right? That's just pure unfair. Anyways, so according to my basic understanding of 1-year-olds, and I'm not an expert on babies, but apparently 1-year-olds can barely sit on their own and can move only with the help of supporting piece of furniture. Basically, the 1-year-old has slightly better coordination than Iron Man without his arc reactor. Upon her cough, she obviously upsetted the other patrons and staff, but in order to keep her solid dignity, she struts out with her supposedly unpaid yogurt. This 60-year-old is like a fallen hero in the comics and every other depiction of anti-heroes in the movies, where she starts off being a social justice warrior, and upon seeing the inherent evil in the world, she uses her powers for vindictive gains. And by evil, I'm referring to proper social distancing, and by powers, I'm referring to a respiratory defect. She started off trying to protect those around her, but after some form of life-altering event, which in this case it's a verbal exchange, like what most main characters in movies actually go through with some senior, superior being telling them, oh, what you're doing is wrong, you have to dig and find yourself and be more reflective as an individual. And what's my point again? Oh yeah. Which in this case, she decides to circumvent social expectations and coughs at the vulnerable, which isn't the most honorable, and I don't think anyone would ask you to do that, so she probably did it on her own. In this ripe age of deadliest catch, coronavirus is a rampant disease spreadable by even the smallest of interactions. A cough is one of the hardest hitting tools an unarmed individual has. This skill is further empowered by any buffs bestowed from the corona family. The cough initiated by the 60-year-old was described as super hard, which are words everyone thinks of during any examinations. This 60-year-old human decides to cough more than one time, which either means she has terrible aim but wanted to secure her target, or her lungs lost control. Both are devastating news and would be brought up in the next parent-teacher conference. However, the sad part is the 1-year-old became mildly feverish the next day after the cough. All we can wish for is that he has not contracted any viruses or bacterial infections. It's such an unfortunate thing that happened during this time of crisis, where unity should supersede discord, but yet the opposite happened in this encounter. So, Madam 60-year-old is being charged for assault, which should really make us think twice the next time anyone coughs at someone else, right? So upon reading this news, I've been enlightened about coronavirus assault. Turns out there are many cases of people using their coughs as offensive tools against their perceived foes. For example, there were these two sisters who coughed and spat at law enforcers during a confrontation about their breach of the coronavirus regulations. One of the sisters was far more vicious than the previously mentioned 60-year-old, where she took a crutch and attacked a police officer before scratching him. Like, do you know what this means? She had to take a crutch from presumably a disabled person, creating a chance for the single crutched individual to sustain injuries from a fall, right? So what is she trying to do? Play real life Jenga? No, that's just wrong, right? So this one is clearly more ruthless than the previous story about the 60-year-old, where she was clearly already in the wrong but wanted to justify her acts through her aggression, right? The previous story, like up to this point, other than the fact that she was wrong, coughing at a 1-year-old baby, we don't know who won that argument, right? Like, maybe during the verbal altercation, the 60-year-old lady could have just been like, hey, do you mind maintaining the social distance? Then the mother could have been like, hey, don't you just mind your business, right? And then that's why she got angry. Then after that, they got into this altercation. Like, we will never know. At least I could see why she did it, but this one's just weird. She clearly just did what she wanted to do and assaulted a law enforcer, which is very, very unfair in my opinion, because like the law enforcers are just doing their job, and to be harmed and sustain injury through unnecessary aggression from those being detained is just wrong on so many levels. And a lot of people who use coughing as a way to deter others, or especially those who are at the front lines fighting against the disease, I think that's just very, very disheartening to me, because those people who are doing a service for us, for society in general, are being taken advantage of and being bullied by these people who don't want to adhere to certain measures that are imposed, which is clearly for a reason, which is to curtail the spread of the virus, right? So I'm just lost for words at this point. And with the continuous streams of news about these kinds of people who are basically obstructing those who are trying to help society by coughing and spitting at them, that's just rude. I just hope we should get a grip on ourselves and basically empathize with those who are there to help us to impose certain restrictions. I mean, restrictions are imposed for certain reasons, and no one's gonna stop you from doing things because they want to. There's obviously an intent, and we should really appreciate the efforts of those who are trying to help us and not be bad people and try to basically cause trouble that shouldn't even be there in the first place. That's all I have to say, and I just hope we spread more positivity in the world. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you. Bye bye.